Hey guys, today on Rich with Cars, I'm gonna bring you 2021 Porsche Taycan base, two-wheel drive. I got a great opportunity to actually review this car, and I gotta give a huge thanks to Lexus of Orlando. I'm gonna be putting some links in the description below for this car because they actually have it up for sale. And if you guys know anything, the Porsches in general are very hard to come by nowadays. As always, I'm gonna be doing a quick review of this, doing a exterior, interior, bit of driving impressions. I already drove the car a little bit, and I'll give you guys some cargo, and I guess if you wanna call it powertrain review. So strap in, let's take a look. So the Porsche Taycan was first released in 2019 as Porsche's first full electric vehicle. Now if you take a look at this, I'm gonna start comparing the Taycan versus the Tesla Model S, because I would probably say that that is the most relevant vehicle to the Taycan. And after spending some time with this Taycan, frankly speaking, I prefer this 100 times more over the Tesla Model S in every single aspect. Now of course prices is gonna be a little bit different because this is a Porsche versus a Tesla. Porsche really did a phenomenal job with the Taycan, especially being its first fully electric vehicle. So let's get started with the exterior overview. So the Taycan actually is very similar to its prototype. Of course it had to make some changes, but in terms of overall design, it's very similar to its prototype. Now looking here at the front, it's got very smooth lines. Of course they had to keep it aerodynamic for efficiency purposes, so it glides right through the air. If we look at the headlights, it's got the typical Porsche, let's just say 4-dot LED daytime running lights. They look gorgeous and it's instantly recognizable. Then you got, for example, aside from the headlights, I love how they integrated the air curtain over here, kind of similar, if I could say, to an LC in terms of like how that looks like a teardrop. But I really love this over here. They are functional, and then you have some additional cooling over here at the bottom as well. Now we move a little bit towards the top here on the hood. You got very minimalistic character lines here on the hood. These headlights, and I love how they're integrated into the body itself. On the side, keep in mind, as I mentioned before, this is a base Taycan. The wheels that you see over here are not the standard wheels. These are upgraded wheels that come with the vehicle, and these are aero wheels, multi-spoke. Really nice. If you notice over here, you do have sort of like an aero design to keep it flush, so that the air basically travels past the vehicle itself. Now these wheels are 20-inch and they're 245s in the front. Does not have the battery door that is on some of the higher end Taycans. Some of the higher end Taycans have a sort of line over here that you just brush under it and it just automatically opens and goes into the body. This one is more of a push button and it just goes up like that. So I got a bit of an experience in terms of charging it. It's very straightforward. I was very surprised in that how simple it was to start charging the vehicle. I plugged it into a regular wall outlet, and of course it wasn't very fast because it wasn't a level 2 charger, but it was very straightforward to understand, especially if you're going from internal combustion engine to electric vehicle. So these door handles are flush to the car, and the reason being is to keep aerodynamics up as well. If you can see, we have an air curtain as well. It's right here, and it is actually functional to allow air to pass through the body for additional aerodynamics. Very nicely integrated into the body itself. I love how clean the side of it is. Something else that I noticed is how they integrated the side blinkers into the reflector. So they actually did both the reflector and the side blinker for the side of the vehicle right here, instead of actually having it on the mirror or even somewhere on the fender, for example. Frameless doors to keep it with a sporty design. These are 20-inch as well, but you have a different width for the rear, and these are 285s for the rear. I love the single taillight bar that goes all around the rear portion of the vehicle. And I also love how the design integrates into the body over there. They integrated the Porsche logo into the housing of the rear tail light. At night, the entire light bar in the rear lights up, so it gives it a very distinctive look. And then you have here a speed activated rear wing. So once you actually hit certain speeds, the wing over here pops up. The rear diffuser that is unpainted, but you could see that there's no exhaust housings or anything. I do like how Porsche kept it clean, and they didn't actually try to put any fake exhaust housings or anything. It's really nicely integrated. And then you have a couple of fins, one there and one there, that act as, if you want to call, diffusers to help guide the air under the vehicle. So generally, overall, the design is really nice for the exterior. I would take this any day over a Tesla Model S. So now we're gonna take a look at the interior. Let's take a look at the door cards to get started, and then we'll jump into the interior and show you guys a little bit of the inside infotainment, an entire layout. So here we have some leather on the upper portion. We got a different type of, I guess you could call it, accenting. It's not really carbon fiber, it's not plastic, but I kind of like it, to be honest. It seems like it's a leather seeming plastic injection mold. These are electrically operated door releases, so it does look like a regular door release, like a mechanical one, but it's actually electric, and it works quite well. You do have your memory seats, and then your window controls and side view mirror controls. I do love, and this is on all Porsches, and they kept it also on this one, the feeling of the clicking on all the buttons, and this is across the entire Porsche lineup. Just listen to that. Really nice. I love how they feel. It's very nice. So you have the door handle over here, it's regular, and then you have a bit of storage space here at the bottom. You can probably fit a couple of 500 ml bottles, and you have a little bit of extra space over there. I don't know what that's for. I don't understand why they did that. You could probably fit in some paperwork over there as well. Now the interior is a beige with a black, I believe. These are the premium seats. They're not the sport seats, but these are the premium 14-way seats. I got the chance to sit down inside of them and drive the vehicle for a bit. Super comfortable. Little bit stiff on the bolstering, but nothing too much in the sense that it's gonna bother you on long distance drives. You do have 14-way power. The actual design of the seat itself is pretty nice, and it's got like a single back plastic portion behind the seat itself. The headrest over here, you can actually push them forward to give you additional support, and you can see that over there. So it's pretty nice. Adds a little bit of comfort for the head area as well. So inside of the Porsche Taycan is, let's just say, a little bit different. I'm saying different than other Porsches because this being its first fully electric vehicle, I guess they decided to go kind of like the Panameras. Now you don't have any physical buttons. It's all screens. It's got advantages and disadvantages. Of course, the advantage is the fact that it looks extremely clean, very modern. Disadvantage is one of them right here, lots of fingerprints. And the other thing also is a little bit tough in, let's just say, trying to choose something or make some changes on any type of settings. For example, the HVAC system. So the HVAC system is constantly over there. It doesn't change. And I can switch something over here, but you kind of do have to take a look if you want to change your temperature. The only thing that they did is it does provide haptic feedback, though it's cool to have the haptic feedback, but it's also a little bit tough to change some of the settings as you're driving. It doesn't make it very convenient. The thing that does piss me off the most though on the HVAC system is trying to fix these vents. So you cannot fix them manually. It's all done through the screen itself. You have all these different settings over here, or different airflows on the screen itself. Now you have pre-fixed type of settings on the way that the vents blow out. So you have diffuse, which does not blow the air directly at you. You have focused. So now that the air is gonna start blowing directly towards each passenger. And then you have individual. Now if you want to fix it yourself, you have to go through the screen. And that's a little annoying. Very cool, very gimmicky, but a little annoying. The other thing also is, you know how in most vehicles you can fix the strength of the air coming through the vent itself? Well, you don't have that over here. It's nowhere to be found. Guess where it is? It's right here. So that's how you fix the strength on that. Not very convenient. I love this gauge cluster. If you take a look at it from the side, it's actually curved. I assume that they made it curved for better visibility and less glare, but it's really, really cool in how the screen for the gauge cluster is thin on the sides over here. It's got a lot of functionality. It's got a lot of different things that you can do. I'll give you guys a bit of a look over here. So you have one button here on the steering wheel that changes different parts of the screen itself that you can adjust. So say for example, the middle part where the map is, you can choose different aspects. For example, you can change this on the map. I can change different views to extend the map. Gives you the entire screen. This would actually come off as well. I take that off, and now that you have the entire screen for the map itself. Reduce screen. So I have a reduced screen where it's just very minimalistic, very simple, gives you only the necessary. You can have the power meter as well. So no map, and it just shows you the amount of power that's being used. And then you have other displays as well. And then you have the regular map. We have the map in the middle and two separate screens over there. Now each screen of course will have different functionalities. So I can change to information over here, trip, shows you different navigation things over there as well. I mean, I can spend a whole bunch of time on this, but I just want to give you guys a bit of an idea of the configurability of the screen of the gauge cluster. It's very, very practical in terms of what type of information it shows. The other thing that as well that this gauge cluster has is you can actually change, like that's your traction control off, changing your suspension. So now you just put the Sport Plus suspension as well over there. And then on the other side, that's your headlight control. So now it's on auto. I can turn on the lights. These are your fog lights as well, I believe, or your European style lights. But of course, you want to leave it in auto. Then you have odd placement, but like all other Porsches, your ignition switch is on the left-hand side. So instead of actually having a turn ignition, you have a push button over here. And then the most unconventional thing here is the gear lever, which is right under the gauge cluster. It's not in the middle. So giving you guys an overview of the middle portion of the interior over here. The camera, it doesn't have 360-degree camera because this is a base Taycan, but you have different views where you can see the side of the vehicle when you're parking. And then you have both the front and the rear, and it gives you sort of a wide angle view. You have some shortcut buttons for your infotainment system. I have to admit that the infotainment system here in the Porsche is extremely responsive. It's very nicely laid out. You have different options or different menu systems. One here is for the charging of the battery system, all that stuff. And then of course you have wireless, both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. One thing that I noticed on this particular vehicle, the Android Auto compared to other vehicles that I've been in, the map is very nice because it does take the majority of the screen. I've seen other vehicles, for example like my GV80, where the map is maybe 2/3 of the screen. I do like how this actually does take up the majority of the screen. And once again, you could see how responsive this is. And then you can just go back to the original infotainment screen as well. So very, very responsive, very quick. Your settings of your vehicle as well. You have a bunch of different stuff over here. You can change the brightness and different settings for the different screens. So this is your center display or your upper infotainment display. And then you can do the instrument cluster over here as well. And then you can change also the operating panel, which they call, and this has your automatic climate control, and it stays here at all times. So whenever you want to change your HVAC settings, you can always do it here. The difference between this screen and that screen is that this screen is all haptic feedback. So when I press it, it's kind of like an iPad, if you want to call it. It is not physically movable, but it does provide haptic feedback to make you feel as if it's moving when you touch it. You do have some shortcuts over here that bring you to the battery itself, and then also you can open your frunk or your trunk as well. The only thing that I found a little bit odd is that to close it, the trunk, I have to hold this, and it just closed now. Otherwise it won't close. Something also pretty cool is that this portion of this screen over here acts as a trackpad for the upper screen. So let me just show you guys a little bit. As you can see, this moves up and down on the screen up there. Cool. And then you have some shortcuts over here as well. Vehicle settings, your phone, media, and navigation. Then you also have a few other shortcuts over here. That's to put the vehicle into sport mode automatically. That's for your camera. Pretty comprehensive, both the lower and upper screen. I'm not sure if I'm crazy about having this as a screen. It is cool, but it is a fingerprint magnet, as you can see over there. Yeah, I don't like the fact that you don't have physical buttons for the HVAC, nor to adjust any of your vents as well. You do have a couple cup holders over here, and then you have your middle console with a wireless charger over there. And you also have, you can't see it from here, 2 USB-C ports and a 12-volt plug in there as well. So you have a total of 4, I believe. So 2 in here, and then you have 2 in the back over there as well. Now something, if I'm not, sorry guys, sorry, and that's exactly what I mean. I'm not sure if it's me. When you open the middle console, it doesn't stay up. It'll stay in that position, which is useless. But in this position, it won't stay up. I don't get it. And as you guys just saw, it just hit my camera as I was actually trying to film inside of the middle compartment. Yeah, a little bit odd. And then you have your glove box over here. Sorry about that. On higher end models, this would also be a screen, but instead it's just a regular glass panel with some piano black in the back. You do not have a sunroof, but you do have a full panoramic roof, very similar to what the Tesla Model S is like as well. I'm not sure how this would be on a sunny, hot day. Gives you a sense of space inside, which is pretty cool. And I'm gonna show you from this angle because I won't be able to when I'm sitting in the back, but you do have a couple of USB-C charge ports over there in the back seat. Pretty useful as well. No middle seat for the rear, so you just have a little compartment over there. So it is strictly a 2+2. The seats are semi-bucket. I did sit in the back already, and I'll give you guys now, as I sit inside, my opinion on the rear seating space. So this is one piece seat back. So you do have some foot space, but you cannot go too far in, so you're very limited to the amount of space that you have in the footwell area. The seats themselves are quite comfortable, very nicely laid out as well, and you do have some bolstering on the bottom part as well, which I feel where I'm sitting right now. The only downside that I would have to say though is that these seats are a little bit too upright. So on long distance trips, I'm not sure how comfortable I'd end up being, just because it's a little bit too upright for my liking. You do have a middle compartment over here with a couple of cup holders, and then I want to show you guys how much space. And this seat right now is adjusted to my height when I'm driving the vehicle. So I do have about, let's just say, a couple of inches of knee room. So my head does touch the ceiling over here. If I were to move a little bit towards the middle, then I wouldn't touch because of the glass panel. But if I sit in a normal way, then I'm touching the border over here, which is a little bit uncomfortable. So generally speaking, I would say that the Tesla Model S is a little better in terms of comfort in the rear, but the way that the fit and finish is much better here in the Porsche. And I do like the way that the seats hug you, but the way that it's tilted, a little bit too upright for my liking. And you also have some vents here in the rear, but these are regular vents. You can adjust them manually and also open or close the vents over here. So you have a little bit of storage area in the middle, here, there, and here as well. So look at the cargo area for the Taycan. It is not a hatchback style. It does have a conventional trunk. I believe the Tesla Model S is a sort of hatchback style where it just opens up and it's attached to the main cabin area. You do have a bit of space over here. I think the Tesla Model S has a little bit more space. I'll show you guys the numbers in terms of cargo volume. You do have a few cubby holes or storage areas that are pretty deep on each side with some cargo nets. One there, and then you have another one also over here. You do have a bit of extra space over here as well. You do have a 12-volt outlet over there. And then finally, you do have a pass-through. So I showed you guys the opening of one of the seats, but you can open up both seats and it gives you more practicality. And I'll show you guys the other cargo area, which is the front. So this is the front or the front trunk of the Porsche Taycan. And you can see that it is relatively deep. You can put probably one, maybe two carry-ons in here, but definitely one carry-on you can put in there. This is typically where the charging cables go, as you can see. So now to the powertrain. I can't really show you guys much in terms of powertrain because there is no engine that you can see or an engine bay. This is a fully electric vehicle, the first one from Porsche. This being the base, it does have a single motor in the rear. It's got a two-gear transmission, which is on the rear axle, and it does push 321 horsepower and then 402 horsepower on overboost. I'll be showing you the numbers. And then in terms of torque, I believe it's 254 pounds per foot of torque. I might be wrong on that. And I'll also show you guys the kilowatts in terms of power as well. But when it comes to the power figures, I can tell you that the delivery when I was driving this car was incredible. Of course, this is not being anything remotely close to the Turbo or Turbo S, but just being the base version of the Taycan, it's still pretty incredible in terms of power delivery, how smooth it is. I definitely do prefer it over the Tesla Model S in terms of exterior and interior design, and also in terms of driving dynamics. I did drive it for a little bit, and generally speaking, the vehicle felt incredible. A little bit numb steering. The suspension, I did put it in different modes, and the suspension itself was not very stiff, let's just say. Not as, let's say, for example, other Porsches. Turning radius on this was quite impressive. I was able to do a U-turn with no issues whatsoever. The acceleration on this was not incredible because it's not the most powerful version, but the power delivery was very, very good, and it was quite smooth. In terms of electric motor noise, it does have a piped in sound through the speakers, and you could barely hear it on the outside as well. I could not find any sort of features or buttons inside that would allow me to modulate the sound of the electric motors. I'll give you guys some numbers in terms of the weight for this particular model right here. And in terms of energy efficiency, I'll also show you guys some of the numbers on the screen as well. I loved how it drove, and if you were to ask me, but I'd definitely choose this and get sort of a lower version of it in order to attain the same price range as a Tesla Model S. But I would definitely choose this over a Model S in my opinion. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick review on the Porsche Taycan base, two-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive version. I want to give a huge thank you to Lexus of Orlando. My buddy over here allowed me to take this beautiful Porsche on a drive and have some time with it to be able to get to know it a little bit better and give you guys a good understanding of what it is. I'll be putting some links in the description below so that you guys can take a look at the listing. They do have it up for sale. I'll be putting up the price up here in terms of what they're currently listing it as. I highly recommend, if you're in the Central Florida area, to take a look at it, because you won't be able to find many Taycans around just because of what's recently happened earlier this year with the boats actually burning down. And the boat, there's another boat also, if you guys don't know, that actually was swaying back and forth through rough waters that also ended up totaling several different Porsches that were on that boat, including Taycan. So ultimately, that's why you're probably seeing high prices on the Porsches in general because of the shortage that there is. So guys, don't forget, as always, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all the support that you guys give me. I've reached 1,000 and I'm extremely thankful for that. Don't forget to comment below if you guys have any questions. Please like, subscribe, and share with anybody that you know. Once again, I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.